Hi guys, this is the refugee one. So if you're not at all interested in refugee theory and a discussion about what's happening in Poland, skip it, because that's all that's in this one. Lots of people on the internet have been making, some of them quite nasty comments about how 1.5 to 2 million women and children have been absorbed in Poland and the surrounding countries as they exit Ukraine. And they've wondered why so many people have just melted. They get to the railway station in Krakow and they get food and they get some warmth and some clean clothes if they need it, and then they disappear, they move. Our sense of refugee camps in this type of conflict is that there will be a large tent camp somewhere. And as people are coming in, there will be more and more tents put in. And you end up with a vast village of immigrants who are refugees, who've run away from war, and who are all living in tents, and the United Nations brings food round. And that's not happening in Poland, and people are wondering why it's not happening in Poland. And there's a lot of people saying it's because it's reverse. It's the camp tents show you how racist we are in dealing with refugees, because the people that are coming from Poland are mostly white, and in fact the people who are not white have had a much rougher time, because a lot of Eastern Europe is still quite racist, quite homophobic, transphobic, anti-feminism, which is why it takes a long time for an Eastern European country to join the EU, because the overall social culture is unacceptable if it's racist and transphobic and homophobic. And so nations who want to join Europe have to do some work changing their own society so that they're not racist, transphobic or homophobic. And it's really difficult to point out that actually the reason all these people have disappeared at the railway stations isn't because they're white, it's because they're literally moving from one part of their own culture to another part of their own culture, where they have people, they have relatives, they have friends, they have somewhere to go. They know where they're going. A lot of them know that they're only going as far as, say, Krakow, and then they'll work it out. And those people will be absorbed by churches and schools and things that have been set up. But the majority of people, these women and children that are moving out and through, are moving through. There's no need to put tents up. And that's because they're the cousins, the brothers, the sisters of the people that they know they're going to. So the refugee crisis looks different. And it's easy for us to look at it all and all the food being made and all the wonderful things happening and think, oh, that's good, we've got this. Except we haven't got it, because what has happened is that ordinary, everyday people like you and me have stood up and have made it happen. They're the ones opening the restaurants, cutting the onions, making the soup, making up beds, checking if they can find some more nappies. That's all being done more or less by individual people. And they're going to run out. They're going to run out of food, and they're going to run out of energy, and they're going to run out of the willingness to do it, because they've probably been working for 18 hours a day for 3 weeks now. And with the best will in the world, they're not going to be able to keep going. There will be a gap before the United Nations. There will be a gap before UNICEF and the Red Cross can get in there to help. Because when they help, they have to follow the rules that have been set up And the rules on supporting refugees are actually really, really strict, because it's not as simple as handing somebody some hot soup when they arrive. I mean, obviously it is. It is about that. Handing a mother with her 3 kids who are terrified and who've left their big brother and their father behind, handing them soup and bread and giving them somewhere to sit down and talking to them, telling them that they're safe. That is fantastic. That is wonderful. That is huge. But it's not going to last forever, because the only people who've got the resources to keep doing this are the ones that come with government funding and government rules, and who know how huge this problem is. And the first real problem that's going to happen isn't accommodation, isn't the food, isn't toothbrushes and toothpaste. They're all being taken care of. Far too many. There's probably 1 million toothbrushes in landfill somewhere in Poland, but we won't talk about that. I was supporting a woman in Yarlswood, and she'd been separated from her babies, her newborn baby and her 18-month-old toddler. She was in Yarlswood and they were somewhere else. And when I went to visit her, I asked her if she needed anything, and she said, "Why does everybody keep giving her toothbrushes?" She had 5 toothbrushes, brand new toothbrushes. And it was a perfect example of how we think, oh, what do they need? Quick, let's do that. But not understanding that absolutely everybody else has had the same idea and is sending the toothbrushes or the sleeping bags or the things that are actually never actually going to be very useful at all. And there's going to be a gap. And the real problem is going to be school places. Where are these children going to go to school? Because if 500,000 women have moved with their kids, that means 750,000 children are going to have to find somewhere to go to school every day. And schools can't magically wave a wand and find teachers. They can't wave a wand and find 3 new classrooms with seats for everybody. Schools are going to be under huge amounts of pressure to take refugee children, or the society, the culture, the people in charge with the permits are going to have to set up refuge centres that involve schooling, and that's going to be hard, and there's going to be a gap. So when you look at it, remember 2 things. These people flooding in, they're not stuck in tents in this one place, because most of them know where they're going or where they're trying to get to, because most of them are moving towards friends or family. And that doesn't happen when 1 million Muslims are moved out of a country and told that if they stay, they're going to be killed. Because in order for the country that they're moving into to be able to accept them, they have to have Western infrastructure. They have to have roads. They have to have hospitals. They have to have schools. They have to have food set up and running. They have to have volunteers who know what they're doing. And in a poverty area, that's not going to happen, because there just isn't enough of everything. Whereas in Europe, there is enough of everything. There is enough food. There is enough water. We don't need the tents because there's enough people moving on. But it's going to be problematic. It's going to be highly problematic. All the work that you're seeing now about how well this is going, the people doing the work are going to drop away because they'll be exhausted and they have no more resources left. And they need to go back to caring for their families and not spending 12 hours a day at the soup kitchen chopping onions. But the infrastructure will have real difficulty going in and picking up that support in lieu of the volunteers. So it's going to get much, much tougher. And I just wanted to say that and explain it perhaps to people that don't have any experience of this. People will come forward and do a lot of work very quickly. But at the end of the day, they have to go back to their own work. They have to go back to taking care of their own kids. When it's volunteers in a community, doing all this work, this amazing, fantastic work, it's not sustainable. It will start to wind down and tensions will rise. No matter how much you know that the people that you're supporting are victims, 100% victims, there'll be a point where it's not as nice. People are not being as nice. And we need to prepare for that, and we need to get support in place for that, and we need to make sure that the statutory agencies, the United Nations, the World Health Organization, UNICEF, we need to make sure that those people get in as quickly as they can to pick up the slack before the volunteers collapse with exhaustion. And I want to end this with something witty or memorable, but there isn't anything. There's just saying, we've all got this, but this will be hard, and it's going to get harder, not easier. So that's what we're facing. If there's anything you can do to help, if there's money that you can donate, if there's skills that you can donate, if there's information that you can give to people on your Facebook page, because what they're doing is inaccurate and harmful, like, send baby formula. No, don't send baby formula. That's just, I'll get into that in another video. It's going to get harder. And we need much, much more cooperation and pick up from the statutory agencies. And that's all I really wanted to say on that. Take care of yourselves. Remember, you've got this. And if you've made it this way, then you're very good at putting up with me blabbering on. And thank you for that.